Let's pour one out for XDefiant. The free-to-play live service first-person shooter that aimed at that classic Call of Duty feel has officially been unplugged forever, leaving some warning signs for gamers and game developers to come. This game seemed to be pretty polarizing in that some people loved it and others bounced off immediately. I'll be the first to tell you I loved it, for the most part. I think I really loved the idea of it and what the developers were trying to do more than the actual execution. And let me be clear, I'm not trying to drag anyone or kick a game that's already down. I respect the time and effort and passion that went into creating this thing, and I just want to call out the things that appear to have doomed an otherwise worthy shooter. So in no particular order, here are the lessons I hope the industry learned from XDefiant. Don't create an online first-person shooter in a game engine that wasn't built for that. Ubisoft created the Snowdrop engine to be versatile and modular and has been used in everything from The Division to Mario plus Rabbids, but XDefiant was plagued with netcode issues from the very beginning. We're talking things like bullets not registering, enemies appearing in the future relative to their actions, and inconsistencies with flinch effects. Unfortunately, these problems popped up in the earliest betas and never went away as far as I can tell, which leads me to the next lesson. Don't have a beta if you're not prepared to address the feedback. I was part of 2 separate betas for this game before it came out, and there was a significant delay after one of them, so it was pretty surprising that when the game did launch, most of the concerns from the beta players were still there. I already mentioned the netcode problems, but there was also a general consensus that some of the abilities were unbalanced and the game needed more maps, more modes, and just more. Which might have been forgivable at launch if we didn't have to talk about the third lesson. Live service games require constant content. If I had to guess, I'd be willing to bet that a lot of the planned content had to go on the back burner at some point because they had to keep going back to the drawing board with those dreaded netcode issues. Or maybe they thought there was enough gameplay out of the gate that they didn't need new factions and maps and all that until later. But by the time that stuff started trickling in, it was too little too late. And as a free-to-play game, obviously the season passes and store items have to carry the game's profitability. Speaking of which, lesson 4 is the store needs more. I played well into season 1 and I had the pass, and I remember there were a few kind of interesting things to unlock, but nothing really special. And I never saw anything in the store that made me want to fork over some cash. Apparently I wasn't the only one who felt that way. There just wasn't much to offer at any given time, and what was there was usually only available for a limited time. They tried to drive sales through FOMO when they should have been focusing on variety, and for players logging in for the first time, such a sparse store had to be a bad look. Leading to lesson number 5. You have to stick the landing. This game was delayed several times, went through several betas and open betas, and ultimately launched without much marketing. Ubisoft made it clear this game was going to live and die on its ability to generate hype all on its own. And guess what? It had over 1 million players in the first few hours and reaching over 8 million players in the first week. This was everything they could have wanted and probably exceeded their expectations. Well, I'm certain it exceeded their expectations because the servers were overwhelmed. Black screens, crashes, problems connecting to the server, you name it. Some of the players stuck around and ran into the problems we've already talked about, and a lot of other players bounced off the first week and never looked back. XDefiant had done the thing that was so hard to do in this environment. They had millions of players immediately, and in a lot of ways they squandered it. And what's more impressive about that initial player count? They did it without Steam, which is the next lesson. Steam delivers. If you're not going to market your game much and you're going to rely on hype and word of mouth only, why would you not recruit the ultimate hype machine? Playing XDefiant on PC required Ubisoft's own separate game launcher, something that's pretty unpopular with PC gamers, and it was still able to get a ton of players. That's great for Ubisoft, but it really makes you wonder what it would have been like if it had been on Steam. What kind of concurrent players would we have been talking about? Could it have had even a fraction of the word-of-mouth buzz that something like Helldivers 2 was able to generate? Unfortunately for XDefiant, Ubisoft only recently changed their policy and returned to releasing games on Steam, starting with Assassin's Creed Shadows. So I have to think this is one lesson they've already taken to heart. The last lesson? Well, this one seems to be the hardest to get across. Stop it with the live service and crossover games already. This one's the most obvious, but we keep seeing it come up time and time again. Live service games have a huge audience, but those players are already hooked on a select few games and it's not easy to pry them away. Multiverses shut down this same week. This is after Concord, Babylon's Fall, Spectre Divide, Blue Protocol, Gundam Evolution, Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League all went dark in the recent months and years. Not to mention Marathon, which seems to have canceled live service game written all over it. Also, crossover titles don't have the appeal they used to. And let's be honest, Ubisoft IPs aren't as exciting or as iconic as you'd expect in a game featuring so many successful game franchises. You could have taken the game references away from these characters and I would have accepted them as just generic original characters. Except the Assassin's Creed faction, the Hidden Blade ultimate ability was badass and tied back to its franchise in a much cooler way than the others did.
Stop the package.
I really wonder what it would have been like if they had taken away the crossover IPs, add in some more maps and game modes out of the gate, and slap a $30 price tag on this thing. I don't know. Ultimately, I think the game always tried to define itself by what it wasn't. It didn't have skill-based matchmaking, it didn't disband lobbies, it didn't hit you over the head with monetization. This is all well and good, and it got their foot in the door with a lot of gamers, but once you have the players, you have to deliver. The technical issues, the lack of content in the first few months, all the other stuff we talked about, it was just too much to overcome. The game was fun, the idea was solid. An old school first person shooter with modern game modes, I mean, sign me up. I think the developers were aiming at the right target, but I don't know, maybe the hit registration was off. XDefiant deserved better, but maybe we did too. Hey, if you liked this video, hit the like and subscribe, and if you didn't like it, well, you should also hit the like and subscribe out of spite. See you in the next game.